Ladies and gentlemen, if any of you have been on your phones or your iPads or your laptops in the past week alone, I have complete confidence that you would have heard of what's happening in the Middle East right now. Right now, there is a deadly war going on between the Israelis and the Palestinian militant group Hamas. We are joined today by the director of Oz Arab Media and retired Lebanese Army Major, Mr. Remy Wehbe.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you. Mr. Wehbe has joined us today to give his expertise and opinion as a military expert as well as a media expert. Without further ado, it's time for us to get into it. Mr. Remy, once again, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you for having me today.
It's our pleasure. Now, in your experience as an Army Major in the Lebanese Army, how do you believe this conflict will not just impact the Israelis and the Palestinians, but the Lebanese?
Look, it's very complicated. It's very complicated. It's not only limited to the Palestinians and the Israelis in their conflict over the Holy Land. It's in all the neighboring countries, and since 1948 and even prior to the date, and it has dragged on to the current situation where we are now at the moment. Yes, it will affect the whole neighboring countries, whether economically or politically or by all means military. Yes, it will. I agree that it will affect.
Oh, 100%. I don't know how many people who are watching would know this, but the attack that happened a week ago was actually the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War between the Israelis, the Egyptians, and the Syrians back in 1973. So it just shows you how dragged out this conflict is. And to those who don't believe that what's happening in the Middle East impacts them personally, ladies and gentlemen, to understand the extent of this conflict, there are many global attacks that have happened throughout the years that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. For example, the 9/11 attacks can be linked to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The question is now, obviously, how will it affect not just the neighboring countries, but neighboring countries who are struggling economically, military, and that's, I suppose, where Lebanon comes into the picture. Question is, do you believe Lebanon can sustain this let's say, wave of terror that's currently happening in the region?
I completely disagree with the fact that Lebanon should be part of this conflict.
Yes.
For many reasons. The first one, you can support the right cause. The Palestinian has a right cause at the end of the day. And also the Israelis has the right to live peacefully at their home in their country.
Yeah.
The point is, how can we put this in a consensus between the two parties? Many United Nations decisions were taken. European Union has also pushed towards the two-state solutions. The Vatican also pushed towards this such a solution between the Israelis and the Palestinians. But unfortunately, when you see fundamentalist parties on each side, and like what we see today in this conflict, you will understand more and more why we get to that extent. Every problem has to be compromised at a certain stage. Israelis has the right to live peacefully. Palestinians, you cannot expel them like that, and they were living in that country, in that land, and also at the same time, most of them got displaced. And we end up with the idea of the two-state solutions. Definitely, what happened in the last week was completely unacceptable. From a military expert, I say, when you fight armored forces. You don't touch elderly people. You don't touch women, wives, kids, under age 1, and you limit your fight with the military side. And the opposite is true as well. Yes. Even when it comes to the captivities and to the prisoners of war, you don't touch the elderly people.
Yeah.
And definitely, you don't touch women and kids. Nothing to do with.
No.
That's far away from your cause. And definitely, any party that will do this will turn the world against it. You won't win the sympathy of whoever party is, unless fundamentalist people like you. The fight is over a land. You do it over a land. You limit the casualties between militaries, you don't touch the civilians.
Yeah.
That's what I believe in. That's what I was taught during my training in the military college in Lebanon, and you respect that one as well.
Yes, of course. Obviously, anybody who has been paying attention to the news, there has been a large amount of civilian kidnappings,
Yeah.
attacks against babies. I've seen footage of wounded children from age of 1 to 7 or 8 years old who have been suffering, and obviously that is not how. Obviously, Major Wehbe was trained in the Lebanese army. How long were you in the army for, sir?
18 years.
18 years. So
Yes.
you obviously know your stuff, and that's an extensive time to spend in the army.
Those are the basic things in
Yeah.
life. You don't touch civilian people. You only fight, and you don't fight to kill. You fight just to stop the harm from the other party towards your country and your people.
Yeah.
And this applies on both parties. It doesn't mean the militant of Hamas when they infiltrated the Israeli territories, the 1948 territories. They were. We saw the images that were not acceptable, and it doesn't help their cause. Definitely, it doesn't help their cause. If you ask me the question, I'm more with the Palestinian Authority way of dealing with things, the non-violence.
Yeah.
And the government, the official government of the Palestinians, which is based in Ramallah, they are dealing in a proper way to sort out that matter via non-violent decisions, which had led in the past to the Oslo 93 agreements, which is state part of it to the two-state solutions. Definitely, if you're going to fight, you fight in a political way, and you fight in a non-violent way. Respect to other people's life and the right to live.
Yeah. Obviously, throughout the history of this conflict since the late 1940s, violence has always tended to be the way that negotiations happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's been lots of violence. There's been the Suez Canal crisis of 56,
Yeah.
Six-Day War of 67, and it's also caused proxy conflicts in the region. We can go on and on about this. But one thing we have noticed is that there's been lots of militant groups who have been taking actions. And one such militant group that is taking action is obviously Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. As someone who spent so long in the Lebanese army, that was very well respected, that I suppose you can say earned his reputation in the army, how does it make you feel to see a non-government militant group make decisions on behalf of Lebanon, which isn't executed by the government or the army?
First of all, I believe in the government and the Lebanese army as the sole master of the land.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, I might be sympathizing with Hezbollah in case Israelis will invade Lebanon or any other foreigner invade Lebanon. Not only Israelis, even if Syrians invade Lebanon, any other strangers that invades Lebanon, we should all stand up as Lebanese and fight against any stranger and help the Lebanese army into defending our territories. That's what I believe in. And definitely I'm against the idea of interfering into other people's problems, like the fight between Hamas and and I stress on Hamas, because the Palestinian Authority representing the Palestinian people is not part of that fight.
Yeah.
That's why I say Hamas versus Israel. Some people might say, yeah, they are puppets of the Israelis, Palestinian Authority. Well, I disagree with them. This is their opinion. It's not my opinion. I'll come back to to Lebanon. Yeah, definitely, we shouldn't be involved into other people's problems. We can assist humanitarian via humanitarian way. We can back up the Palestinian in their rights to live. Back up the Palestinian Authority in their right to live in all the peace process that the United Nations, the Europeans, even the Vatican has been pushing towards it, and to live peacefully into this two-state country between the two entities in the Holy Land. Yeah, this is what I believe in it, and that's what I will be pushing towards it via all means. As for the civilians, as I stated before, no one has the right to kill them, to touch them, whether they live in the kibbutz, whether they live in settlements, or they live peacefully in Gaza. They are civilians, nothing to do with the fights. You want to fight the the militants, you go after the militants. You want to fight, you're attacking a military post for the IDF, for the Israelis, you attack it. But you don't kill the civilians driving their cars on the way.
Of course. You mentioned in your answer you didn't believe the Palestinian Authority was a puppet for the Israelis. Obviously, there are people who disagree with that. Why do you disagree that the Palestinian Authority isn't puppets of the Israelis?
Because they were properly elected, they represent their people. Fatah, which is the main core of the Palestinian Authority,
Yeah.
has been struggling for the Palestinian cause in the 60s.
Yeah.
First of all, via a military way. And we disagreed with Fatah when they were in Lebanon, fighting us in the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
But when they chose to walk through the non-violent process, definitely we support their cause, and we support this non-violent process, not the violent process resulting of casualties, civilian casualties, which is not acceptable. And yes, definitely, I don't consider them as a puppet. They represent their people. And the best way to see if they really represent their people via proper elections that will take place in the West Bank and Gaza. This will be the proper way to confirm the legal representation of the Palestinian people. Besides, we are part of the Arab League, and the Arab League recognizes the Palestinian Authority as the sole representative of the Palestinian people in the world.
Yeah. Obviously, in your answer, you also mentioned how Fatah was in Lebanon throughout the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s.
And we stood against them.
Yeah.
We disagreed with them, but it doesn't mean we don't sympathize
Of course.
with the poor people who got expelled. That's why we end up saying the best way is to have two-state solution,
I concur.
which all the moderate people in both sides agree on it.
Yes.
That's it.
Unfortunately, it has obviously hit a lot of speed bumps along the way. For example, the 2000 Camp David Accords was probably a huge miss on behalf
2000
of Camp David Accords when Yasser Arafat.
1979.
Oh no, sorry, not the Camp David
The
Accords.
Oslo 93.
In 2000, when Bill Clinton, Yasser Arafat, and Ehud Barak, the then Israeli Prime Minister,
I see. Yeah, okay.
they did negotiate a two-state solution.
Exactly. Bravo.
At Camp David in 2000. My mistake, not the Camp David Accords.
No, it's okay.
To my understanding, Yasser Arafat was not fully satisfied with that agreement. So obviously there has been a lot of hiccups along the way. But back to Palestinian militant presence in southern Lebanon. So there was Fatah throughout the 70s and 80s, and still to this day there is a Palestinian militant presence in southern Lebanon. Now, obviously, full sympathy to the Palestinians. Obviously, they did lose their homes, which is unfortunate, to put it mildly. But do you believe that the Palestinian militants have a right to be using southern Lebanon as a base of operations?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The only body that has the right to defend your country is the Lebanese Armed Forces, which unites all Lebanese from different denominations among one decision: defending your land. But we don't believe into attacking other people. We believe into maintaining our land, defending our people. Now, if it comes to Hezbollah, his presence there is being legalized by the Lebanese government and the Lebanese parliament by giving them the right to defend our country as well. I understand if the Israelis will enter our territories, yes, then the Lebanese army, with the backup of Hezbollah, should defend our country as long as the government is given that mandate, authority to the Lebanese resistance. At the same time, Hezbollah should take its orders from the Lebanese government and not from any third parties. Because the third party is going to end up doing its own benefit, not the benefit of the Lebanese people. This is something that I mentioned that to other parties in Hezbollah, and I mentioned that whenever we meet, whenever we speak about those matters, I show them that I disagree with them in that regard. Their decision should be solely Lebanese, taken by Lebanese and under the Lebanese government.
What was their response to that?
Yeah, some of them agree with you, some others keep quiet, and I understand why they keep quiet.
Yeah, of course.
But definitely, if Any country invades my country, I'll stand up with Hezbollah and any other resistance, Lebanese resistance, to defend our country.
Of course.
So I don't pick up a side against another side.
Of course.
I don't stand up against the Israelis and allow the Syrians and others
Yeah.
and the Iranians. And the opposite is true.
Yeah.
I will not stand up against the Iranians and let the Israelis in, for example, or Europeans in.
Yeah.
Either we're united around resistance and around the country,
Yeah.
or not.
I agree. A house divided obviously cannot stand. And I think at the end of the day, as you've obviously very passionately mentioned, that it's 10,452 kilometers squared that belongs to the Lebanese, every inch of it. And the only way to maintain that is through unity, not division.
And I think it's enough for the Lebanese.
I agree.
We've been through hell
Yeah,
since in the last 50 years.
of course.
Whether in a civil war, whether in a economical crisis, enough is enough.
Yes.
We have held the whole burden on our shoulders
Yeah.
for the Palestinians,
Yeah.
for the Palestinian cause and other causes as well. That wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
That wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
We can be neutral and assist via our neutrality, like Switzerland. And this is what our church has called for, that neutrality of Lebanon. This will help. Lebanon is a mosaic of different confessional groups, like the Shia, the Sunni, the Christians, our other brethren, the Jews, and we need to understand each other, respect each other, and be neutral. It's not a one image country or one confession country where the people like any others, for example. No, it's a mosaic.
Yeah.
When you live in such a mosaic, you have to maintain neutrality and not to take sides, neither with Europe nor with the Arabic world, unless we're part of the Arabic world,
Yeah.
nor with Iran, and neither with any other fundamentalist decision that will lead to the destruction of your country.
Yes.
My country comes first.
Yeah.
And what sort of success I achieve if I attack others, get involved in others' businesses, and other people in other countries' businesses, and get nothing?
Yeah.
Why should I go fight elsewhere outside the Lebanese territories?
I agree.
I defend my country to the end,
Yeah.
with the help of all Lebanese
Of course.
from different confessional religious groups. But why should I go fight in Cyprus, fight in Syria,
It's a
fight in Israel? Why should I do
fruitless
it?
endeavor.
It doesn't help me.
Of course.
Let me stay on the neutrality.
Yeah.
Let me help via the political ways. Any right cause, we believe in it. We all agree on it as Lebanese, because Lebanese doesn't belong to one party, Lebanon. It belongs to all the different parties.
I agree.
That's why I answer you. Definitely, I'm against any interference into other people's affairs.
Yeah.
That to include the Palestinians that might be acting from South Lebanon.
Well, I'd say that many Lebanese who have seen what's happened to our country in the last 50 years by getting involved in political and military matters that don't really have anything to do with us has cost us a lot. So I think neutrality is becoming the growing preference for many Lebanese domestically and abroad.
Exactly.
We've spoken a fair bit about Lebanon. I'd like to maybe focus a bit on the Israelis and Palestinians from now on. Obviously, throughout since the 1940s, the Israelis and the Palestinians and the broader Arab world have fought. And generally speaking, it has always been an Israeli victory. I think we can all agree Israel probably has the strongest military in the Middle East region. What do you believe Hamas's chances are of standing up to the military might of the Israelis?
If they want to fight face to face,
Yeah.
military to they don't have the chance.
Okay.
But if they will be fighting like a guerrilla warfare, yes, they will be having the chance. But at which cost? At what cost? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What would be the cost? It's not going to be easy. What would I achieve if I choose the violent path? Kill, and kill. It's going to result of a retaliation by all means, by killing also from your side, destroying from your side, killing. And look what's going on in Gaza now.
Yeah.
What did you achieve? What did they achieve as Hamas?
Yeah.
They're not achieving anything, zero. If they want to release the prisoners, it was enough for them for example, when they attacked the military post of the IDF, for example, to limit their casualties to the Israeli militaries and to take Israeli military personnel as prisoners of war. Why should they take and massacre all the civilians living in the settlements around Gaza? That's not right.
Yeah.
That's not right.
It's considered an international war crime.
Exactly. Imagine also the Israelis going into Gaza and committing massacres against the civilians, and massacre will result of a massacre. Where are we going to end up with it? That's why, once again, I am very, I am one of the people who will back up the Palestinian Authority into their non-violent process and into the two-state solutions. And I call the different parties to sit down between themselves and to sort out this matter peacefully, based on non-violent. But once you have fundamentalists from any side, this will lead to that to this chaotic, to this war, which is not necessary.
Obviously, there's been many battles and wars throughout the last 70 years, which haven't had much success in yielding the fruit of peace. Do you believe this conflict might be the deciding change?
Look, it's a good question. Yeah, of course, any war should have an agenda. When you launch a war, you should say, if I win, what would be my conditions? What's my aim? If the aim is to release prisoners, you take prisoners, but not civilian, once again. You take military prisoners. Even if they were one prisoner, Israel would have negotiated towards other prisoners as well. What's your achievement? Is to destroy Israel? It's not going to happen. If your achievement is to get to the two-state solutions, well, sit down with Fatah, be one, negotiate with the Palestinian Authority, negotiate with the Israelis under the umbrella of the United Nations, and definitely you'll be there for it. But to wipe off the map people living in certain areas there, whether they are Israelis or Palestinians, that is not acceptable. And that doesn't buy.
Obviously, I think you very emphatically put the point, and I think a lot of people agree with you now, that diplomacy is now the only way to achieve peace in the region, because violence has run its course in terms of achieving peace.
I agree with that.
Obviously, in doing my research for this interview, I read lots of comments online from just random people who have been saying certain things, such as, why are governments so pro-Israel, or why is the media so pro-Israel? Obviously, as the director of a media company yourself, what do you say to this?
Look, I would like to remind everyone who's listening to us. Australian government is not pro-Israel. Australian government sympathizes with the cause. Before the 7th of October, we all remember our position as Australians was with the two-state, and still with the two-state solutions. But Australia doesn't accept the non-humanitarian way of dealing with things. The massacres that took place in the settlements, this has led to the international communities to stand up against Hamas. They lost their sympathy instead, and they have undermined what the Palestinian Authority has been working on for years and years and years. And I think the best person to answer that will be the Palestinian ambassador in Canberra, whom I think you're having an interview with them next week.
That is correct. Thank you for leading me into that one.
And he will be the perfect person to answer those questions. But myself, as Australian and as Lebanese, I will say yes, of course. Australian government sympathizes with the humanitarian side of the war, of the story. We will not accept to see elderly people from both sides. But because the attack took place on the 7th of October, we were sympathizing with the Palestinians prior to the 7th. But when the attack took place and you saw those massacres, definitely it's going to affect you negatively. and it doesn't mean that we don't respect the Palestinian cause. Once again, we respect the Palestinian cause. We believe that they need to live in their land as well,
Yeah.
and that's why I come back to the same point: the two-state solution,
Yeah.
but non-violent. You achieve it in a non-violent way. You achieve it in a political way, diplomatic way, and you'll find many friends who will assist you with it.
Obviously, you mentioned that how this attack has obviously lost sympathy, has made perhaps people all over the world lose sympathy for their cause. How much do you think the Palestinian cause and the peace process has been set back as a result of this attack?
Well, at the moment, there's no. Everything has been frozen, and but eventually it will come back.
Okay.
Once the fight ceases, when the fire ceases, yeah, it will come back, and I believe that the Middle East will change after this.
God willing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank our guest today, the Director of Arab Media and retired Lebanese Army Major, Mr. Remy Wehbe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph, again
My
for
pleasure.
that nice interview.
Thank you.
And via Arab Media, I call all the international communities
Yes.
and the world, in the entire world, whoever is involved in the Middle East conflict, and both parties, the Israelis and the Palestinians, mainly Hamas at the moment, to work more towards peace, a peace process. Enough of those civilian casualties from both sides. Innocent people are falling from both sides, whether in the kibbutz, whether in the settlements, or in the Gaza band, in the band of Gaza. Sorry, yeah, enough. They are civilians. They need to live, and definitely we're not happy with those scenes. And but at the end of the day, all parties should sit down, negotiate over tables in a non-violent way, and seek the two-state solutions as a fair and just solution for both populations.
I second this, of course, as well. And obviously, in the case of Lebanon, I do hope there can be unity there, because as mentioned, a house divided cannot stand. And obviously, this is for all the neighboring Arab countries. Also, as Mr. Wehbe mentioned earlier, I will be interviewing the Palestinian ambassador next Wednesday. Obviously, he will be able to give us a more in-depth understanding of what's going on currently in Palestinian territory. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'd like to thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.